Smart Girl session of AP edition. We ask that your name alone will be praised. We ask, even as we talk about this all-important topic, we ask that, Lord, you give us wisdom on how to handle it, on how to deal with it at work, on how to deal with it at school, on how to deal with it in everywhere and anywhere we are faced with it. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Somebody type amen. Engage with me. Remember, you can engage with me. Thank you so much. Engage with me. Let's type amen. Remember, I can't see you, but I can see what you have typed in there. Right. So, amen and amen. Right. Let's just, without no much of ado, I just want to show you a bit of what we are doing today, and then I will welcome the speaker to go straight into what he has got for us today. Right. So the first thing we'll be looking at, of course, we'll be talking about stop racism. That's what we're going to be doing it. We want to show you how you have to see it, hear it, and report it, whether as a teenager, as a tweener, or as a parent, as an adult, whichever way it applies to you, is all it cut across. This topic we are talking about cut across everybody. Is that okay? And then the ground rule is this. Please, it's important, whatever you're going to drop in the chat, you must respect other people's opinion. When they share their true life story, is their reality. You can't dispute it. You can't be arguing it. You can't say it's not true. No, that's their reality. We just have to accept that. Is that okay, everyone? Let's be mindful of others' opinion. No judgment. We are not here to judge anybody. Share your own experience too if you are comfortable in doing that. And if not, you can pass it on. It doesn't matter. We have enough individuals and people who is going to share their own experiences as well. If you don't want to share, if you're not comfortable sharing yours, is fine. You are not under obligation to do that. And then our speaker, straight into our speaker today, we have Dr. Jacob, Udo Jacob. You know, Dr. Jacob is a scholar and a public intellectual whose career spans academia, international development, and democratic innovations. He is currently an adjunct professor in civic engagement and social action at Pratt College in US. He co-founded the Global Center for Rehumanizing Democracy in 2025 and currently serves as its founding executive director. He was previously Paniza Memorial Endowed Professor and Executive Director of the Center for Information, Democracy, and Citizenship at the American University in Bulgaria, in Europe. He earlier served as Under Secretary General for Research, Evaluation, and Foresight at the Organization of the Southern Cooperation, OSC. So without so much further ado, I want you to help me welcome Dr. Udo. I know he's also a professor, so thank you. I can see the emojis coming through. You are welcome, sir. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. You can put your cameras on so that we can see you.
Yes, my camera is switched on. Can everybody see me?
No, you can't at the moment.
No? Okay, let me switch off and switch it back on.
Oh, that's fine. You can do that. Yeah, we can see you clear now. Clear now. And then we'll spotlight.
Can you see me now?
We can, sir. You can.
Yes, we can see you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ma. Thanks for all the amazing work that you're doing within this space. And may the Lord indeed continue to bless and increase you on every side. And for all the young people that are on here, well done for all the, for just being who you are. And I'm very happy to have the parents here. I just have to say that I'll be talking to parents. So if you're a young person and your dad or your mom is not here, I'd say go and call them. Because this is, as a matter of fact, really directed at parents. Of course, it's directed at young people as well, but mostly parents. I want to talk to parents because parents have a very key role to play in this, in raising confident children and in helping you young people to navigate this problem of racism. I wish I can tell you that there's nothing like racism or that it's nothing serious. I wish I can tell you that, but I know I'd be lying to you if I tell you that. So it's real, it's there. Sometimes it's overt, sometimes not so overt. But I want to start with a Mentimeter. I want to know what you all know about racism. So I'd say bring out your mobile phones, your mobile devices, or if you're in front of your computer, let's do this Mentimeter together. So we can use your phone to join using the QR code, or you can just go to menti.com and tap in the number that you have in front of you. That's 555-03568. So I have a few questions here, and I want to go through these questions, all right, with all of you. So let's get started. Is this racism? Comments about hair or beats? I want to see comments coming. Okay, keep going, keep coming. Is this racism? Comments about hair, beats. Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Okay. All right, let me move on to the next one. Is this racism mocking someone's accent? What do you think? Hmm. Okay. Seem to be a consensus here. Most people think it's racism, and I have to say you're right. Okay. This question, you perhaps hear this question most of the time. I mean, lot and lot of time. Where are you really from? Would you consider that to be racist in that sense? Okay, interesting. Interesting. Okay, we'll talk about this shortly. All right, is this racism being seen as disruptive or mocked for, I mentioned accent before, or for food? Okay, good. Right, okay. Right, let's move on. Being excluded or given lower expectations because of race. Okay. Interesting. All right. How would you respond? I mean, just be honest, there's no wrong answer. If you thought it was racism, what would be your typical response? Okay. Okay. Most people would ignore it. Some people will tell it trusted adult. One person, keep their head down and work harder. Okay. And finally, how confident do you feel handling racist incidents? You know what racism can look like. I could respond if it happens. I know where to get help if needed. Okay. Okay. So the people, if you think that you know what racism can look like, all right, let's see what the response could be. I strongly agree. I could respond if it happens. Most people are in between, right? And not everybody knows where to get help that's needed. Okay, interesting. I am very grateful for your responses. Thank you very much. For those of you that responded, thank you. So I'll just end it there. Then it gives me quite a few things I would say to think about and to talk about as we progress. Dcns, when you have moments, please do share the slides. So today, for the time that we have, I'll talk generally about what racism is, what to look out for, how to respond if it happens. Then I'll bring up two case studies. And the purpose of these case studies is to actually bring a real life case, what actually happened, then to show what sort of responses you can actually make. This is for the parents, and one is very overt racism, and the other is a bit subtle, not so overt. But it's important for us to, in our community, and when I say in our community, I'm talking about Africans, African immigrant families that are in the UK. Some of you I know, some of you are in Canada, some of you are in the US. And from my experience, the experience that immigrant families face, whether in the UK or in Europe, I should say, or in North America, are very similar. So, so I'm hoping that whether you're based in North America or in Europe, that you'd find this useful. Okay, if you can share the slide, that would be fantastic, of course. Or I can actually share from here, if that's okay. If everybody can see from my side, I can share. Okay. Let's start with why this conversation matters. The reality is that African children face very unique challenges, combining race, combining their accent, particularly those that recently arrived in the UK and were not born here, even those that were born here as well, face these issues, cultural differences. And racism can be overt or it can be subtle. You can call those microaggressions. And many parents did not grow up here in the UK, so or in whether whether you're in North America. So navigating these systems can sometimes be a bit daunting. And oftentimes children stay silent. They don't tell their parents, perhaps to protect their parents, or perhaps they just don't feel that it's necessary to talk about these things at home. Now, the opportunity is that open dialogue builds trust and resilience, and it's important for us to have these conversations. And it's important for us to teach our children so that they can know racism when they see one, and that this can be addressed. If all parents address racism when they see it, then racism reduces. Of course, it's not going to go away because it's in most cases embedded in local cultures. But the more people can respond, can say something about it, the more at least we can say, right, that more people can shine the light on the problem. Then families can advocate effectively together. And one thing you should know is that you have legal protection, so you need to know how to use them. But first of all, let's start with what is racism? Okay, next slide, Mark. What is racism? Racism can come in many different forms. It can be overt, it can be subtle, but not less harmful in any way. It can be systemic, okay? And it's important that we teach our children to recognize racism in all its forms. Overt racism is direct and intentional. It can be racial slurs, it can be name calling, it can hear people say, go back to Africa. It can even be physical attacks in some instances. It can be exclusion from groups. It can even be racist jokes, and they just brand it as jokes, but these aren't jokes at all. Microaggressions, they are subtle but harmful. For example, the example that he had in the Mentimeter, where are you really from? Where are you really from? And sometimes people say your English is so good, and that can sound like a compliment, but honestly it isn't. Right? It's based on expectation. They had a lower expectation of you. Okay. And trying to touch your hair without asking. Okay, it's not just rude, it's racist. Lowering expectations. Okay. That being watched in shops. I mean, sometimes you see the kids get into a shop to buy something and somebody's following them about. Then racism can also be systemic, okay, baked or built into systems, right? And sometimes those ones are the hardest, I would say, to fight because they are so baked into the system that you would hardly notice them. Next slide, one. And that can come in employment discrimination, stop and search, and so on and so forth. Healthcare inequalities. Like I looked at research data on health outcomes for different ethnic communities, and it was shocking. Housing discrimination as well. So you see that in many societies, across many societies. All right, well, let's move. Where it shows up now, I want to focus on schools because of the purpose of this this gathering. These are some of the things that your child might experience or probably may be experiencing currently. And again, I'm talking to parents. Okay, this could be comments about their name being difficult. Right now, don't take that lightly. And sometimes I know we shorten our names to make it easy for people to pronounce, and there's nothing wrong with that if that is what you want to do. But comment about names being difficult, yeah, that's racism. Being overlooked for leadership roles in your school, assumed to be disruptive or aggressive. I saw a report recently that showed the percentages across racial groups of children in England that are being suspended. And again, it was shocking. Jokes about African accent or food. And sometimes this may come as if it's a compliment, but it isn't. You're not like other Black kids, right? If you hear that, it's not a compliment at all. Then lower setting, I mean, sometimes your kid may be, normally should be in set 1 in a maths class, for example, but somehow they're lower to set 2. Or even lower. So if you see that, and that's why it's so important, one of the things I'll be talking about really is that it's so important for parents to be engaged in what their kids are doing, what sets they're in across the subject, okay? So lower setting, despite their ability. A disproportionate discipline. Other people may do the same thing, but they face disciplinary measures that are not so stringent in that sense. But when it comes to a Black kid, you see that they go a bit further than normal. What are some of the warning signs that you should look out for parents? Again, if you see a kid that is reluctant to go to school, Don't start blaming them, calling them names or whatever. Ask questions. There may be reasons that that they may have for not wanting to go to school. And I'm saying that as an African parent as well, because, the way we grew up, for most African parents, I mean, you dare not say you don't want to go to school. I mean, my dad would beat the living daylight out of me. But it's a different culture, different context, and that's obviously not what's expected here. Sudden dislike of a subject or a teacher. Maybe a kid used to love math, for example, but all of a sudden they don't love maths anymore. They used to love writing, literature, but all of a sudden, not anymore. Then wanting to change their name, all right, take that very seriously. Asking to straighten their hair, or withdrawal or mood swings or mood changes. Or they're saying, I wish I wasn't African. Or hiding school incident from you. Those are some of the warning signs, parents, that you have to be mindful of and take serious notice of. Next slide, man. Now, how do you talk to your child? Because it's so important that when addressing the issue of race, you're very thoughtful about it. In the US, I worked in the US for quite a few years, and this conversation, having the conversation, as it's called in some communities, the conversation, that conversation, having the conversation is actually a very, very important thing, particularly for dads talking to their male children about race and how to navigate those racial spaces. For young people between the age of 9 and 12, perhaps you can even start this conversation a lot earlier. For my son, I felt the need to start at when he was 5. Okay. These are some of the questions you can ask. Has anyone ever made you feel different because of how you look or where you're from? Okay. And there's some key messages that can go with that. Look, your skin is beautiful. Being African is something to be proud of. Okay, if something feels wrong, it's probably wrong. So validate their feelings, how they feel. And let them know that they can always talk to you, that you'll always have their back, and that you won't be angry. Okay. For the older ones between 13 and 17, you want to go deeper, have a much deeper conversation. What does being Black or African mean to you? And what challenges have you faced because of your racial identity? And some of the key messages are, you have rights, you have legal protections. Then speak up. This is very, very important. Your voice matters. Speak up. And again, I'm saying this as an African parent because when we grew up in some of our societies in Africa, it was very disrespectful for you to ask questions. Okay, ask adult question or talk back or respond. I mean, you can't even look at an adult in the eye, let alone respond. So this is a different context, and the society that we are raising our children, it's so important that they are confident, it's so important that they're able to speak up, it's important that they're assertive. Then document incidents. This is very, very important. I'll talk a bit more about this. Document incidents. What happened, when it happened, the exact words that were said, specific action, when this happened, who were the witnesses. This is very, very important. And it's important that you let them know that we're going to navigate this together as a family. Now, let me say this. Please listen attentively. Sometimes what is not said is more important than what's being said. So listen attentively, not just to what is said, but what is not being said. So you ask a kid, what's the problem or what happened and so on. And they may say nothing or say, don't worry about it. Or they may say, never mind, something like that. Now, that's when you should mind. that's when you should be attentive. You should ask more questions because in that instance, what's not being said is more important than what's being said. So you want to listen to those cues, all right? Next slide, man. Sorry, we have to speed through this because of time. Now, when racism happens, I'm not saying if, I'm saying when. Because it will happen. I wish, again, I can tell you that it's never going to happen and all that. It will happen, right? It will happen. So when racism happens, these are some of the practical framework for responding. First of all, when your child tells you, you have to listen. Let your child tell you the full story without interruption. Do not interrupt. Validate their feelings first, okay? Then number 2, as I said earlier, documenting. Document. Write down exactly what happened, the date, the time, the location, the words used, who are the witnesses, who saw this happen, okay? How did you feel? Write that down. How did you feel? And so important that they express how they felt, how that incident made them feel, and write it down. Sometimes they may not have the words to actually articulate their feelings, how they felt. Now give them those words. You're not putting words in their mouth, but they may not have the words, they may not have the vocabulary to actually express how they felt. You know, they were traumatized, they were humiliated. I mean, these are words that maybe a young person may not have, but you have to be the one that would give them those words so that they may have the words to express how that particular incident made them feel. Now assess, is this a one-off? Is there a pattern? Okay, is it an emergency? Now this determines your response. So the documentation is so important, the response is so important, the writing is so important, because in terms of documentation, it may be something that may sound trivial, unimportant, but write, still documenting and write, because tomorrow, next month, next year, something else may happen involving this particular individual that was racist. So if you are documented a first instance, what happened the first time, you can always refer to that thing, that this has happened before regarding this person. Because one thing you'd notice is that racist people, there's a pattern about them. They're always that way. So they'll always leave trails. Act, formal complaint in writing. In writing, I cannot emphasize that enough. Then be specific. Then request a response timeline, okay? Be very specific. This is what happened, and this is what you expect in terms of response, okay? Let us know when you're going to respond. Let us know the action that you're going to take, and so on. Then escalate. If unsatisfied, write to the school governor, the local authority, Ofsted, consider legal action even. All right, next slide, ma. Know your right. I'll just speak through this. By the way, this slide will be available, so Dcns Alabi will share this to those that are interested. So I'll be sort of rushing through them, but you can have a look at them later on if you want to. There's the Equality Act 2010 in the UK. In the US, you have lots and lots of legislation there in North America that you can draw from. Then also be familiar with the complaint procedure in the school that your child is attending, okay? And always write to the head. If there's an issue, write a formal written complaint to the head of the school. Appeal to the governors if you're not satisfied. Write to the local authority, as the case may be. The Department for Education, of course, if you have to. The legal route as well. The local authority designated office, LADO, you may need to make a referral to them, okay? And there are lots and lots and lots of remedies and measures that are there to challenge racism. Next slide now. Okay, now let's make things a bit practical. Writing an effective complaint. This is so important. This is the first thing that you do, because one thing is that you can't stop racism, but what you can do is that you can challenge it. And the best way to challenge it is not by calling to shout or anything of that nature. You write. We live in a society, I have to say, that respects writing, something that's written down that can always be referenced later on. This is just a general structure. You can make it, you can make what you want to make of it, or write it in your own kind of way. But there are certain things that I would recommend that you have on there in the letter. The subject line should be very, very clear if an incident like that happens, because you receive lots of emails and you want this to stand out. Formal complaint, racist incident. Be very clear about that. In fact, for me, I'll cut and paste it, right, exactly as it is. Nobody's going to ignore that. Okay, state the facts. This is what happened, the date, the time, the location, the exact words used. Okay, you can get me back to that slide. Yes. Okay, then number 3, very important, name the impact. The impact, this probably is the most important thing. The emotional impact, the academic impact, okay, the well-being effect, how this is affecting this child. Okay, then state your expectations very clearly. Of course, keep copies of everything. Send emails so that they can be an electronic trail. There are some phrases out called power phrases that you can use. I am formally complaining about. You make that very clear that this is a formal complaint. Okay. You can make references to the Equality Act if you want to. You can be very clear that you see this as racial harassment. Do not be afraid or shy to use that word. I mean, I'm talking to parents right now. And request a written response and be clear about your expectations. You expect it within a week. Okay. And also be clear that you ask them to confirm that this has been recorded as a safeguarding concern if it's that serious. I mean, if it's a serious issue, be clear that the school is recording this as a safeguarding incident. And I think that's very important. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so I'll talk about a real case study. Again, I'll speed through this because of time, but this slides will be available so you can see the email exchanges. This is actually based on a real incident that happened in the UK. Okay, a year 9 student was clicking his pen during a maths lesson. Okay, and because he was thinking about the question and clicking the pen and thinking about the question. The teacher told him to stop and then compared him to a monkey in a zoo discovering a clicking pen. How about that? Okay, so what follows is the actual correspondence. I mean, I've obviously redacted the names involved. Okay, the exchange between the parents and the school, and how the school tried to avoid taking responsibility for what happened, how they tried to defend the teacher. And you'd see this was, I have to say, this was even a private school, so they'll try to dodge, they'll try to cover up and so on, and that's that would even, you should expect that in most cases, because that's often what happens, unfortunately. All right, next slide, man. Okay, so this is the initial complaint from the parent. Again, I felt that it's important to share the letters here so that you can see. Again, these are real letters. I mean, these are real email exchanges. Obviously, names and other identifying information have been removed, but I won't spend time going through this. This is long. This was the initial complaint, but you can see the based on the template I shared earlier. This is what happened. There were witnesses. It's not an isolated incident. There have been a previous concern raised about this particular instructor. Now, this is the impact this is having on this child. So be very, very clear about that. Be very clear about what your expectations are. Okay, next slide, man. Okay, and this was the school's response. Excuse me, the first response from the school. They said they're going to investigate. Meanwhile, while the investigation is undergoing, these are some of the things they said they're going to do. They're going to provide the child daily pastoral check-in, place an additional member of staff in the child's maths class. This was the maths professor, the maths instructor. Ensure that the child has a clear supported pathway. I mean, all well and good, but it's not enough. Next slide. So we can see the parent's response, the parent response here. Again, these are some of the key points from the parent's response without going through the long letter. The parent responded and pushed back. Next slide, ma'am. Okay, so the school responded and said, all right, so because the parent responded and said, look, we want to have, we don't want this particular teacher to teach the child anymore. Then the school responded and said, all right, that they're going to move the child to a different class. They did not say that they're moving the child to a lower set. It was further conversations between the parent and the child that they got to know, oh, wait a minute, it's not even, I mean, they're moving the child to set 2, whereas the child was in set 1. Set 1 is the academically superior class. So the parents then wrote back and said, no, that's not right. Okay, do not do that. It's the child that should remain, and the parent and the instructor that should be moved. And there was, I mean, quite a fair amount of exchange between parents and the school. And again, I don't want to bore you with all the details of the long email exchanges. Okay, let's proceed. I'm showing you all this just so that you see that it's not just one email or not just one call or one message. You've got to stay on it. Okay, let's proceed, Ma. Next slide. Okay, next slide, Ma. Okay, next slide, Ma. So perhaps you can just stop here briefly. So the school, after the complaint, what they eventually did, the teacher, let me just cut this short, the teacher was moved, the teacher was removed. They concluded the investigation, removed the teacher, and the child was not moved. But the next thing was ensuring that a formal apology is issued by the teacher to the student, and that the teacher undergoes training, not just the teacher, but the other teachers in the school undergo training. Okay, next slide now. So this is a copy of the letter, again, names redacted, a copy of the letter of apology that was sent by the teacher to the child. The teacher apparently showed remorse, but obtaining this apology and ensuring that it's documented, right, in the file of the instructor, and that the school is taking this seriously and that they see this as a safeguarding issue. This is very, very important. Somebody may say, oh, it's just an apology. No, it's not just an apology. It's very, very important. It's documented that this happened, okay, and that the teacher has accepted responsibility, okay, and it's so important that you see this through, because they did not want to apologize, but the parents insisted on a letter of apology. Now, let me tell you what this does for the child. Okay, what this does for the child is that the child, number one, sees that the parents are fighting for him. Number two, this gives the child a strong sense of personhood, because he's received this letter of apology, because that humiliation happened in front of his friends. So he's received the letter of apology from the teacher. I mean, a strong letter written, not an email, but a written letter, right, sent to the child. And he sees that I'm putting it in his file. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, in future, he'll look back at that letter and say, yes, I stood up, I fought for this, okay? And somebody that was racist towards me apologized. And that's something that he will remember all his life. All right, let's proceed. Another case study that is important to share. But before then, let me just quickly again summarize what this teaches us. Be specific, be factual. This is what happened. Okay, use the exact quote. Number two, know your rights. Okay, push back resolutely but respectfully. Okay, include your child's voice. Okay, my child has said this is what happened, and for you to include your child's voice, you must obviously listen to your child. Okay, then again, the crazy case about this one was that they tried to punish the victim, trying to move the victim, that's the child, to a lower set or to another class, when it should be the other way around. Okay, so ensure that does not happen. Then finally, see it through, stick to it, and make sure that you see to a conclusion that is acceptable to you. All right, case study 2, hair discrimination. This is a very interesting case. I won't go into too much detail with this one, but I'll just summarize a very interesting case. The school, the form teacher was racist towards the girl child. She insisted that the braids had beads on them, that the child should remove the beads from her hair before coming to school the following day. Otherwise, she'll be suspended. Okay. And again, this was racist, and the parent had to respond with strong letters with pushback. So again, the letters are there, but again, I don't want to spend too much time. Next slide, please. Okay, so this was the parents' email, which will be available. But what the email shows is that, I mean, you're not just advocating. It's important sometimes to educate and say, look, that hair is not just hair. I mean, hair grooming is not just hair. It's not fashion. It's our culture. It's a story. It's our identity, who we are. So it's important sometimes to educate and make that very clear. And next slide, Ma. And this one was easy to resolve because the assistant principal of the school wrote back to the parent and said, look, can we have a conversation on the phone? And this was resolved in one phone call. And of course, the child was allowed to keep her hair and there was no suspension. And the relationship was preserved through respectful dialogue. Okay, next slide, ma'am. Just want to rush so we can have some time for questions. Right, so how do you build resilience, especially at home? Because everything starts from home, right? It's important that we put in our children that cultural pride so they can be proud of who they are, okay? So celebrate your African heritage openly, okay? And let them learn your language together. Cook traditional foods. I mean, there's nothing wrong with cooking your traditional food at home and do that regularly. Share your family story, your family history, where you've come from. Okay, and build a safe space. Okay, regular check-ins about school. How was school today? Then no judgment. Okay, having that no judgment conversation. Then validate the experiences. Okay, then show that you'll take action. Okay, and learn to cultivate a positive identity. Books with Black protagonists. I mean, you have to assert your racial identity in that sense. Then look for role models. Okay, and affirm, that cannot say this enough, affirm their beauty daily, okay? And do that even with young children. I mean, young Black kids, I mean, call them whatever nice names. Hello, handsome. Hello, gorgeous. Hello, beauty. I mean, just say that and affirm their beauty or their sense of personhood. Then community, connect with African families. I mean, not saying that you should be insular. No, not at all. Make friends with everybody, but it's important that you have a healthy connection. Faith community, of course. Most of us here are people of faith. So where we are in our faith community, it's so important, and it's so important that we show each other love. And cultural organizations where you can connect to, so that they know that they're not alone in this. All right, my next slide, please. And for parents, again, I really want to talk to parents because you have such an important role to play in all this. You cannot pour out from an empty cup. You cannot give what you don't have. If you don't have a sense of self-pride, you can't give that to your child. Okay, so it has to come from you have to acknowledge your own pain. If you've experienced racism as well, I mean, you've got to acknowledge that and find a way to deal with it. Because when your child experiences racism, it's you as well. You're experiencing that too. And your own anger and your own grief are both valid, you know. And process whatever happens before you respond. Okay, don't be aggressive. All right. If you're not sure what you're going to say when you're on a call, please don't take the call. All right, wait until when you're sure. If you have to write it down, write it down. Okay, so take time to regulate your emotion before writing that complaint or attending that meeting. Okay, don't use abusive language. I mean, I don't even need to say that. Then find your community, connect with other African parents who understand, share strategies, share support. This is so important as we build children that have confidence. Know when to seek help. Okay, whether it's counseling, advocacy, organizations, or even legal support. Okay, and you don't have to do this alone. All right, next slide now. These are some resources that you can access and different organizations that you can check out their websites. These are various organizations, Citizens Advice Bureau, please feel free to reach out to them. Then some organizations that work on racism. Check out what they do and seek help if you need that. Then some key documents that you should have. Find out about your school's complaints policy, your children's school complaints policy. Okay. Do they have an equality policy? Look out for that. Then the Equality Act is there. You can check that online. Keeping children safe in education. Then have your local authority, the local authority designated officer contact if need be, so you can reach out to them to seek advice if need be. And finally, the last slide, man. Okay. Remember, your child's experience is valid. Okay. You have the right to advocate for them. The law is on your side. Okay. The law is on your side. And I need to say that again. And finally, you're not alone. And I want to say this to our young people. Know that you carry God inside of you. And don't feel inferior to anybody. You're not inferior to anyone. You carry God inside of you, and that makes you greater. That just the fact that you carry God inside, I mean, that makes you greater than anybody, than anything. All right. And in my family, we're reading lessons in the life of David at the moment. So think about David. Okay, he was just about 16-year-old or thereabout when he confronted Goliath, despite the challenges he faced. Okay, he was strong because he knew that God was on his side. So have that belief. That it's not just a belief; it's a knowing. Know that God is inside of you, and one with God is a majority. Thank you. I'll end there and open this up for questions, comments, and discussion.
So thank you so much, sir. We are so grateful for your time, for expatiating on all the key things that we need to be aware of. And for parents, don't worry, I'm going to share the slide with you in a moment from now. Is that okay? Before we move on, I will just quickly bring in a teenager who happens to live in the system as well. Of course, who goes to school here, who was born here, raised here. And at one point in time, I think in year 7, he was the equality ambassador for his school. So help me to welcome Judah. And Judah Olaniyi-alabi, you want to talk briefly on how to navigate racism from the point stand of a teenager. Can we just help me to welcome Judah in? Judah? Keep giving a hand plus. Let's keep welcoming him with that. We hope he will come in on time.
Hi. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but
we can hear you. We need to see you, guys, please, as well.
You can't see me.
We can't see you yet. You need to put your camera on.
My camera is on. I'm just not sure if.
Might need to off it and put it on. But anyway, just continue, and then we'll continue. Let's hear you. Yeah, it's fine. If your camera is not on, it's fine. Oh, we can hear you and we can see you now. Go for it.
You can see me now. All right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hi guys. Yeah. Good evening, guys. My name's Judah. I'm 15 years old. I mean, I'm really happy to be able to talk to you guys here today. In fact, I was going to start with this sentence. When people hear the word racism, but I feel like that's a sentence that everybody's already heard quite a lot. If you've been taught about it in school, you'll hear that particular sentence start. So I'm going to start with my topic, which is racism in the wild. And I decided to name it Racism in the Wild because it's actually juxtaposition. It's racism in school, racism in quite organized that you wouldn't really expect it. Sorry, racism in places that you wouldn't really accept it. In schools, in workplaces, in businesses, and it's really important so that we can be able to recognize some of these things. And actually, the main term for this is called microaggressions, and that was kind of one of the main things I want to talk about. Microaggressions. So, obviously, I didn't talk about this, but when people hear the word racism, they do love to think about things that were obvious, things that are extreme, things that's from the past but isn't really relevant to today. But for a lot of us, especially as Black British young people, racism isn't always a loud thing. Racism is quiet, it's quite subtle, and that actually sometimes makes it even harder to deal with. It can even sound like, you're really well spoken, you don't sound black, or I bet you listen to grime or drill, or you should be good at football, or athletics, or basketball, or a sport. And it can even be, can I touch your hair, or your hair looks wild, your hair looks crazy. Wow, and even touching your hair without asking. But on their own, these comments might not even sound that much of a big deal. But when you hear them again and again, it almost starts to send a message that that you're different, you might not quite belong, and that also you're being judged before people even get to know you, which is also stereotyping. And these things don't even always have to happen necessarily with strangers. It can even happen at school, in classrooms, and with friendship groups. So I can imagine all of us have been in history. All of us have learned history. Raise your hand if you've learned about slavery, for example, in a history. And thank you for the hands up. Yeah, if you've heard these and you're talking about slavery, more often than not that people, often people that aren't of the same skin color as you, will look to you if you are one of the only Black people or part of the people in that particular lesson. If that's ever happened to you, then that's also an example of a microaggression, and that's really quite common actually. I've experienced it myself. I'm sure many other people have also experienced it too. But these people always automatically look at you whenever slavery or racism is mentioned, and it's almost like you're expected for the entire history of racism and slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. But, or even another example, when your teacher mispronounces your name, if that happens to you as well, I can feel your pain. It's also happened to me as well quite a bit. But and when the teacher makes no effort to also pronounce it, no effort to try and say, maybe even shorten down your name, nickname or something like that. Anything that is really, it's not your name, but you'll take it as your name because you don't want any trouble, you don't want any hassle. These are real experiences. I just want to say that, and they actually build up. As teenagers today, we're also dealing with racism in the digital world. We're dealing with racism on TikTok, on Snapchat, on YouTube, anywhere that we go, any kind of digital platform that we use. On Instagram as well, we see trends, we see comments, and we see videos that can actually reinforce stereotypes. Or make even jokes out of serious issues. If you've ever heard the stereotype that Black people like chicken, and you've seen many jokes about it and things like that, that might not necessarily be true. You might like beef, or you might like another type of meat, or whatever. That's a negative stereotype. That's not a stereotype that is correct, and actually it's reinforced in all of these kind of things like jokes, in TV shows and videos and films. And actually it shows almost that racism doesn't even stay in one place anymore. It's actually spreading quickly, and it's spreading even quicker than we can think about, and it can follow you anywhere you go. But at the same time, those same platforms have also helped amplify our voices, and it's also helped amplify movements as well, like the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020. And it shows that young people can actually speak up and be heard and be listened to by important people that can actually make changes. And then this also, another thing that people don't really talk about is the pressure. If you're one of the only Black people or a small minority of Black people in your school, then you can feel a certain pressure to do well, and that can also maybe be amplified by parents' desire to do well. If you, obviously, it's the parents love to do well. They want you to be great in school, but you can almost feel the pressure of representing an entire community, an entire race. And it's almost the pressure to not mess up, because if you do, it feels like your actions reflect on more people than just you. It can reflect on the people that you see at church. It can reflect on everybody, right? And it feels like the pressure to constantly explain your racism to other people can also actually be difficult, because you might even still be trying to process your own experiences. Also, racism can show up in friendships. Racism can show up in friendships, and it can be also a very, very hard place to deal with it. If you've heard a joke that or something that really crosses like a line with you, how would you react? What do you do when a friend says something and they say, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that," or "I'm just joking. I didn't really mean it. I don't believe that." Do you stay quiet to keep the peace, just to be a calm person, or are you one of the people that actually risk things becoming more awkward? And actually, the truth is that being a good friend isn't just about laughing together at jokes. It can also be being willing to challenge each other too. And that leads to something really important, which I want to talk about mainly, was silence. Being silent is not a very good thing. If you're a bystander and you watch things go on, many people would say that you are also a part of it. Not being racist isn't the same as standing against racism. It's when people stay quiet, and even if they don't agree, it allows things to continue. It allows those things to be, it's almost passive agreeing. You've decided, oh, I'm not going to say anything about it. So I've decided, almost in a way, non-verbally, that you agree with what's being said. You've not interjected. I don't believe this is right. I don't believe this is okay. So I don't think we should be saying these kind of things about these certain types of people. Speaking up doesn't always mean making a speech. Doesn't always mean, oh, I think that's wrong. Shouting at your friends in the playground or talking out of turn in a kind of in an orderly environment. It could also be just something as simple as saying the 3 words, "That's not okay." Just that's not okay. And because I believe that's not okay, you can then further saying, oh, I don't believe that's okay. I don't think that settles with me because of what I've heard, of what I've learned about my people, about what I know about black British people, about black people in general, about African people. What I've learned and what I know leads everything for me to disagree with what I've just heard. And then also you can even check in on somebody who's been affected by racism. Many people that you know may have been affected by racism. Sometimes it can even be in front of your own eyes. Sometimes it can be in front of yourself. It could be another black friend that you know. They can have been impacted by racism, and just checking up on those people after you can see maybe visibly that they don't look all too happy with what's been said. You can see it's a certain type of uneasiness. You can just check up on them and say, "Oh, what's the matter? Are you sure everything's okay?" And saying that's not okay is a simple way, a very, very easy way to not fall into the trap of the almost passive kind of agreeing and joining yourself almost together with that kind of sentiment that racism is okay when it's not. Also, we also have to talk about how racism affects mental health. Racism can really affect some people's mental health. It can make people feel like you have to work twice as hard just to be seen as the same. There's actually a saying in football that you have to work twice as hard as a black person to get half as far. And that's also translatable to many other things as well. If you feel like you have to push yourself, you have to work much harder than you would regularly do, than anybody else would regularly do. If you see somebody else that isn't the same skin color as you or racial background as you, working less hard, but you've also taken a break, you've seen a teacher talk to you, say, "Oh, you've not been working hard. If you keep this up, I'm gonna have to give you a stage 2 or a stage 1 or whatever kind of disciplinary system there is. They're gonna have to give you a warning or a exit or a B code or any kind of behavioural thing." When you've seen somebody else that is also the same to you, guys, but they've singled you out. We also have to see that it makes you, sometimes it can make you actually question yourself. It can make you feel out of place, and it can make you also feel that you always have to be on your guard. You always have to be, whenever the teacher's looking, you always have to be working. And that can also mean that lots of these young people carry something very quietly, and they don't want to talk about it. And actually, I want to say something to the adults in the room right now. I want to say something respectfully. When young people talk about these experiences, please listen. Please listen to your young people. Please listen to your children, to your tweens, to your teens, to your, even if you're toddlers. Please just listen out, because listening out can really, really prevent all of these problems from happening. And listening out has saved many people before. It's saved themselves from doing things that people wouldn't really want you to do. And sometimes we as children, as teenagers, we're told we're overreacting and that things have gotten better. It's not back in the day. Back in the day, we used to hear all these slurs and all these racial insults straight to our faces, and we didn't say anything about it. We just kept on working, or something else like that. But please, 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 listen to your young people. Listen to your teens. Listen to your tweens. Listen to your children. Make sure that you know that when they are talking to you about these things, pay attention. Just listen. Listen out for what they say. If there's a bit of a dip, when you ask them, how was school today? And they say, oh, nothing was good, but... And when they say that but, you should already be switched on, thinking about, oh, what's he going to say? Thing a bit scanty. Could you expand on that, please? Could you just explain that a bit for me? Could you tell me what happened at school today? What happens on the playground? And sometimes, whilst progress has been made, that doesn't mean that the problem is fully gone. That doesn't mean that the problem has been eradicated. That doesn't mean that racism still doesn't happen. We need perfect conversations, but we need honest conversations. So when someone asks you next, how was your day at school? Be honest. Just tell them how it happened. If you felt sad, if you felt offended, tell them what happened. Share your feelings with your parents, because your parents should be your safe place. Your parents should be able to, you should be able to talk with your parents, and you should be able to feel, it should be a judgment-free zone. You shouldn't feel judged or treated wrongly, but just because you opened up. And that can actually lead a lot of young people to carry those feelings with them and pack them inside, top on top, until it almost feels that your heart carrying all these baggages, all these things that you didn't want to talk about, because you know that whenever you talk about it, oh, forget about it, don't worry, it's not a big deal, don't worry, because you've been dismissed many times. And I feel like that when we talk, we don't even need a perfect conversation. All we need is to be honest with each other, to be honest with ourselves, to be honest as parents. Even with all of this, I believe that we still have hope, because my generation is more aware of all of these things. We're more open to having these conversations, and that we're more willing to challenge the things that don't feel right, either it's school or if it's at home, outside, anywhere. Change doesn't always come from these massive moments of that spark protests. It'll come from everyday actions, just bit on bit actions, from choosing to speak up, from choosing to listen, and from choosing to learn. So all I wanted to ask was, when was the last time you spoke up when something didn't feel right? When was the last time you really listened to someone else's experiences? And what kind of environment are you creating for the next generation? Navigating racism isn't always easy. There's not really a perfect way to do it. But if we're willing to have these conversations honestly, openly, and together, then real change is possible. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for Judah there. That was quite extensive and quite explanatory from the teenager's point of view. For now, I think what we now need to do is to have our speaker, Dr. Jacob, back on video, and then Judah as well. We would like the two of you to come on video, because we want to ask some questions, or if you want to give give people opportunity to ask you questions, if you don't mind. So I will just spotlight the two of you so that they can direct questions at the two of you. Right. So here we are. The floor is open, as it were. And if you are there, you want to share your experience, or you need an advice from Pastor, he's also a pastor, he's a professor, he's also a doctor. So sometimes I'm confused on which of the title I should give him, I should call him at. But I think Dr. Jacob is happy to answer question. And Judah, of course, is happy to answer question as well. So if you've got question, please raise your hands up. And then it's time for question and answer session now. Thank you so much, the two of you. Yes, question from anybody? You can raise your hands. I think I saw Rema and Zion raise their hand initially. Is it to ask question or to applaud the speakers? Question time. Nobody's asking question. Anyway, I've got questions here. And the first question is for the first question is this. At school, what do I do if a teacher says something racist, but everyone act like it is a joke? Yes, Judah, I think that's quite specific for teenagers, isn't it? Okay, Judah, do you want to go for it?
Yeah. My response to that is also, you also have to think about what could be perceived as racist and what couldn't be perceived as racist. If you feel that something is racist and you honestly you hear something that shouldn't be said in a classroom, shouldn't be said anywhere at all, and you believe that, honestly, when you hear it, something just doesn't feel right within you, and you say, oh, I don't think that was good, I don't think that was nice for you to say that, and I feel like your first step wouldn't be to burst out, say, oh, sir, I don't think that was nice, or sir, this, that, and the other. Argue with the teacher, argue with whoever it is in charge of the classroom, and then get yourself exited, get yourself excluded, get yourself suspended, because that means that you're not in the right anymore. You're not the one who's been offended. You verbally attacked them as well. You've traded words, you've insulted them. School sees it, almost school justice kind of sees it as, you've said something as well, he said something, and I think that cancels it out. So nobody else should take any further actions. I think we should just sweep it under the rug and we go along. But I feel like that's not something that should happen.
Thank you. But, yeah. Thank you, Judah. Pastor Jacob, you want to add anything to that? Before
no, there's nothing. There's nothing much to add. Judah said everything that there is to be said. Thanks, Judah. You know, the thing is the living out perhaps is tell your parents. Tell your parents. Let's get home. Tell your parents. If everybody else is laughing and it's not funny to you, please do not laugh. Don't join them laughing. You don't need to say a word. You don't need to greet a scene. But as soon as you leave there, talk to somebody there within the school. If the school has a safeguarding officer, talk to the person. But be sure that when you get home, you tell your parents. Okay. So the classroom is not a time to answer back, make a big scene. Just go talk to the safeguarding officer if there's one in your school, but be sure you tell your parents when you get home. And your parents now know what to do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Just to summarize what the two of you have said, it's not okay, even if other people laugh, if all the other colleagues in your class are laughing, trust your gut about it. You can write it down, what happened, the date, and tell a trusted adult, who could be your parents, your pastoral lead, or report it through school policy. You don't have to confront them alone. Is that okay? Your school has a duty to keep you safe. Thank you so much on that. So let's take more question from, we've got the first hand up, Rema, please, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you want to contribute to this.
Yeah, I have a question. The question is, how can we tell the difference between banter and racism?
Yes, who want to go for that? Okay, Judah, do you want to go for it, or pass?
Judah, do you want to go for that?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
It's between the two of you.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's sometimes there's a clear difference between banter and racism. Sometimes the line is a bit blurred. But when it becomes something that is obviously so abstract to you that you know it's not really banter anymore, and it becomes something actually like racist, something really racist to you, that so much so that you'd feel offense immediately after it was said, or you've thought back and you thought, oh, maybe that's not the best thing that they could have said, or oh, I feel kind of offended now that I've understood what they've just said. And what you can do is that you can also challenge the person that I've said. But if it feels to you that, oh, what they said was banter, and that's kind of also, banter is really conditional. It's about if you, the person who the banter is subjected towards, finds it funny. And if you don't find it funny, then obviously feel free to say something. Feel free to confront the person if you like. If that's what you think should be the next step, then you can take that next step. But if it's just something like banter that you actually feel, oh, well, I'm not offended by that at all. I know the person's nature. I know that they've only just said that to make everybody laugh. I don't feel that offended by it. Then I think it's not something that you should spark up and start confronting, obviously, people that you would be your friends. Because if you're having banter only works between friends. If I don't know you that well and I say something about you or about your personal appearance, then obviously I would just be bullying you because I don't know who you are. I don't know what you like. I don't know what makes you laugh. So again, it's about how you feel. If you feel like carry on, but if you feel like it's racism, you can stop the conversation. You can say something.
Absolutely.
But honestly, it's about how you see
it. How you see it, how you feel about it. Doctor, do you want to add anything to that, or you can just move on to the next question?
Honestly, there's nothing much to add. Judah, you said it all. You know, your friends can be racist as well. So sometimes there's some, jokes that are outrightly racist. And if you don't feel right about it, then it's not right. Even if these are your friends. Okay. So you can be very clear that you don't like that. And you can choose to have new friends if you don't like the banter. And you can, again, report to a trusted adult. You don't have to take banter that doesn't sit well with you, because honestly, there's several so-called banters or jokes that are just racist, and it's trying to normalize racist jokes. So if it doesn't feel right, it's not right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, the two of you. Just to add to summarize on that for Rema, whatever anybody uses as banter for you and you feel it's not right, it's not just right. And you can say things like, that word isn't banter to me. It hurts people. So can you not use such words around me again? If you say that to your friend, they'll be careful because you have set a boundary. They now know what you know. They know that you know what a banter is and what a racist comment is. And if they keep going, of course, you can choose to not be their friend again, because friendship is not by force, it's by choice. Is that okay? What they've just done, if they refuse to change, what they've just done is that they've excluded themselves from your life. You go and look for people who values you, who will not use such words at you. Is that okay? But I think the two speakers have been able to balance these things for you. Thank you so much there. I hope we answer your question, Rema. The next question is Zoe. I will take more questions from hands being raised. I could see questions in the chat. I'll come to it. But if you ask your hands raised, that will be a priority. Zion, please. Zion, you can unmute yourself and speak to us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, how can you tell the difference between a teacher just being a poor teacher and refusing to put in effort? Example, how Judah said, they're giving you nicknames for bad names. No, giving you your nicknames and not pronouncing your name right. But then they do that for the other white students and other students that that aren't black. How do you find the difference in those sort of cases where it's either racism or just a bad teacher?
Yes, who would like to pick that up? Yeah. Judah should go first, and then Doctor will always wrap it up for him.
Yeah. I think it matters what kind of nickname they give you, though. It matters how you feel about it. I feel like this is all. The entire subject of racism is about your judgment, really. If you really truly believe that the nickname that they've given you is racially inclined, and it's not something that's casual, and it's not something that's literally just an abbreviation of your name, it has a racial tone to it, and you don't think that's good, and everybody else gets a regular nickname, your nickname is something stupid. If your nickname's like Monkey or something like that, that's obviously blatantly racist, and that's not something that you should be called. But if your nickname is just a shortening of your name, if your name is kind of long and it's easier for someone to say that, and it's just a shortening of your name, something easy that they can call you by, I don't think that it's that big of a deal. But then again, if it is something obscenely racist and something that you can obviously see, or there's intent behind this, and I don't think that that's good that they've said that, then obviously you can follow up and say that I don't think that's right.
And then I think also you can actually teach them how to pronounce your name. My name is Lola. It's a long name. It's almost about 14 or 15 alphabets. Right in Nigeria, it's easy for anybody to call me Lola. But of course, in the UK, it's quite difficult. And of course, I had to shorten my name to Lola because I want it to be easy. Because when I came into the country, I discovered that calling my name and spelling it on the phone became a frustration to myself. I was frustrated too because I have to be calling O for Orange, F for Lima, U for, it's just, even I was having a headache with it. So I had to come around it to say, okay, just call me Lola. It's fine. But any of my formal documents, I insist it must be written fully. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Don't compromise your stand. But let's hear from Dr. Jacob on that.
Yeah, so if you're not happy with it, be very clear that this is your name. You'd like to be called your name. Be very clear about that to the teacher. If the teacher, if that's the teacher's way of maybe engaging with students, that's his problem. If other students are happy with it, that's fine with them. But if you're not happy with it, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, whatever it is, I'd rather you call me by my name, which is Zion, and you're respectful about it, and make sure that's the case. But if he continues calling you by some nickname that is not your name, then that's the time again to report. You can never, never ever think that you're over reporting. You can never over report. That's one fact. You can never over-report. So you can always point it out. You're not confronting, you're not confrontational in any way. You can just say, please, can you call me by my real name, which is Zion, that you'd rather you're called by your real name, not by any nickname. And I'm sure the teacher will respond in the right way.
And then, sir, just what to it, I know some of my Muslim friends at work, they've got long names as well, and they will literally take their time to cut it into alphabets and tell you this is how it is pronounced. So you must insist. If you are the type like myself, I'm happy to be called Lola, but some people are not happy to do that. They want their full name to be called out, and you just have to insist on that. Excuse me, my name is Lola. That's my name. You need to call me that. And then you'll be shocked. They will have to go back and learn it because some English, some other Asian names, some other European names, and some other continental names that you cannot easily pronounce. You also have to learn it. Just like the way you learn their accent, to listen to it, to understand it, and to speak it. Just that same way, they have to be put in that position. Your colleagues, your friend needs to be put in that position to do the same. Is that okay? Let's just move on. Yes, sir.
Let me just say this very, very quickly, just to underscore what you said. Your name is your identity. This is saying not just to Zion, but to everybody. Your name is your identity. And what Deacon has said is very important. Once I mispronounced Einstein, And somebody corrected me that it's actually Einstein, not, I can't even remember the way I pronounced it. I said, well, okay, that's fine. But be sure that when you're pronouncing my name, you're pronouncing it well, Jacob Ododo, Jacob. Just be sure that next time you pronounce my name, he gets it right, all right? So look, it's very, very important that you are, that people pronounce your name the way your name is pronounced, and correct them, even if it means correcting them 10 times. Correct them 10 times if you have to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
And
Let's
be
move
nice
on
about
because
it.
we've got some questions. Yeah. Let's go for the first question in the chat. If you still have questions, remember my priority is for those that raise their hands. But let's go into the chat since there's no hand raised. One of the questions says, how can we fight for ourselves when agencies or landlord wants to forcefully take our security deposit without true claim, because probably they feel as immigrants, we don't know our right. We carry God indeed inside of us. Okay. Pastor Jacob, do you want to help us with that?
You have, there's the Citizens Advice Bureau that you can go to. You can seek help from there. And if one thing I should say is that in this country, contract, anything you sign is very, very important. So when you're signing your rent contract, be sure you read through it very, very carefully. In fact, you can put it up on ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to point out the potential areas of conflict for you, what's not right, what you should be mindful of. And be sure you keep the contract. One thing in this country is that contracts are contracts. So if on the contract it says that the landlord should return your deposit with you, nowadays I think there is the deposit protection. The law is on the side of tenants. Let me just say that the law in this country is on the side of tenants. So if the landlord is trying to take your deposit because he thinks, okay, you're an immigrant, you don't have rights, please talk to somebody at Citizens Advice Bureau, and they'll know what to do, okay, to help you.
Absolutely, sir. Let's move straight into the next question. We've got a couple of questions. This is, how do we balance sensitivity towards racism? Like, some people tend to go out looking for the slightest opportunity to react against when really to respond to real racism. When is it sufficient to correct people when they make racist comments and behavior, and not to lodge a formal complaint? Dr. Jacob, yourself.
Thank you. I think that's a very important question. There are times that you may just feel that this is not serious enough to lodge a complaint, and that's fine. But I'll tell you this again, for the parents, regarding your children, every issue is worth writing about. Every issue. If they feel that this was racist, honestly, write it. Mention it to the school. And it may seem insignificant at that time, but maybe if this is a pattern of behavior, one would be able to reference that based on the letters you've written previously. So I know that, again, because of our culture, we don't like to make a big deal out of things. Let's just keep the peace and not make a fuss about it. But I'd rather make a fuss about something than not. So if it doesn't feel right, then it is not right. I mean, there's some that it's just based purely on ignorance. I mean, they're ignorant. And that's where the education aspect comes in. So just raising a complaint or identifying that issue, pointing it out clearly, is a way of educating them as well. And that way they become a bit more careful when dealing with your child or when dealing with you, because they know that, yeah, that you take this thing seriously and these things matter to you, and not just when dealing with you or with your child, with other Black kids as well that may face similar circumstances.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope that answers your question, Eri Mbawa. Of course, some of us that are even Africans cannot even pronounce our African names too. So please, let's be gentle on them as well, on other people. Is that okay? And the best say, stand up for yourself and inform the trusted adult or your a teacher. Another question from Joy: if someone of another race is genuinely asking weird questions, like, do you have water in Africa, or do you live in a jungle? How should I answer such annoying question? Thank you. Judah, let's go for Judah first. I wouldn't know whether I remember Judah when they were a lot younger. I'll mention what Judah, or I think Judah or Caleb asked me. They came back from school one day and they asked me, is there a street light in Africa? You can imagine, is there elephant walking on your streets in Africa? You can imagine that kind of a question. But let's hear what Judah will say, and then Dr. Jacob.
Yeah, I see. I said, yeah, I've experienced things like that before. Yeah, some people genuinely they do ask out of certain curiosity. Some people don't really know as much about Africa as we do about the UK. So I feel like the best way that I used to answer it was, yes, we do. Africa is obviously it's not just it's not just desert and trees and stuff. It's also civilization as well. It's not just almost like a plain landscape. It's also a civilization. It's also developed as well. It's not just what people think of, because they see almost nature documentaries and think, oh, it's just animals, plants, just different types of things. But in reality, it is a real place where people live, where people work. And if you tell these people that, yes, there is actually a civilization there that is developed and that actually is useful and that creates things and that is ingenious and that has so many great people coming out of them, then you can tell these people and you can show these people that actually Africa isn't just a desert, a real place where people live, work, and where people are. I mean, yeah, that's the way I would answer it.
Oh, thank you so much. Then Dr. Jacob, any stake on that?
No, exactly the same thing. Look, some people are genuinely ignorant, and that's their fault for not being curious. So that gives you an opportunity to educate them. Some people can, maybe they know they just want to be mischievous. So, but if you have to give them materials that can provide additional information on Africa, and Africa first is not one country; it's a continent, many different countries, you know, and different cultures, different languages, unique history and story. So every opportunity that you have, do feel free to share that. If somebody, I mean, you would know if somebody's being mischievous or genuinely curious, and you answer accordingly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Just to wrap up what you guys have, the two of you have mentioned, like when I was in that position as a parent, my children were a lot younger and they've never been to Africa anyway, so they couldn't defend themselves. And I'm so sure they heard it from their teacher in class who was saying that about Africa, that whether elephant walks on the street or you don't have street light and things like that. Now, when they came back home and then they asked me that question, I was really shocked. But what I did, and myself and my husband did, was to take them to YouTube. We showed them Abuja. And when we showed them places in Abuja, I could see their jaw literally dropped when they saw the kind of houses that they've never seen in the UK with their two eyes in Abuja street, in the street of Abuja, and in Lagos as well. And that was how my children got interested in wanting to know more about Africa, wanting to know more about Nigeria, wanting to know more about various places. And they themselves now can defend it and say, no, you don't have to take your children there as it was. It's good if you can take them. Traveling is a form of education. And that's what Dr. Jacob has said to us. Educate your children, speak to them, let them appreciate their roots, what their dressing, their food, and all of that. That way they can stand up and defend it as well. Of course, we know our government is not doing as much as they could be very frustrating, but leaving that aside, our culture, our identity is our identity. Thank you so much on that. Thank you. Sister Diola Kudabo, yeah? Okudabo, yeah?
There's race. My name's Praise. There's
How are you, brother
racism.
Praise?
I'm fine, ma. Does racism still hurt if you're less sensitive to it? So if you don't take it really seriously, can it still have effect on you?
Does anybody want to answer that? Yes, you have to unmute yourself, Judah, if you want to answer it.
Yeah. I mean, you have kind of partially answered your own question. It does matter about how you interpret racism. If you see racism as almost as like a tool to almost like get people to make you to lash out at people or to express yourself in a way that isn't dignified, then you can just ignore it. It's not really it's not a true sentiment. It's not something that people believe. It's just something to get you to lash out or something to get you to act up and misbehave. But if you genuinely feel, oh, it doesn't really affect me, it has no meaning to me because I know that's not who I am. I know what my identity is. I know that I'm not this person that you said that I am. I'm not this stereotype that you said that I am. Then you can really just say, you don't even have to say anything. As you can really just move on, I think. But I'm not sure, really.
Thank you. Dr. Jacob, yeah, do you want to add to that? Thank you, Judah.
Praise, you don't need to be used to racism. I mean, you should never be used to it under any circumstance whatsoever. It's not right. So if you are experiencing racial abuse, I mean, you should not get to that stage where it doesn't hurt you anymore. It should hurt you every single time, right? You can never get to that stage where you say, "Oh, I'm immune to this." No, you cannot be immune to it. You may put up the appearance, "Oh, you can't hurt me," but something is taken from you each time. So you have to complain about it, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. I mean, again, talk to your parents. And every time it happens 10 times. I know it's putting a burden, but that's the way it can be stopped. It happens 10 times, you take note of it 10 times. Because, you've got to stop it. And that's where your parents can help by writing to the school, making the school to know that this is a problem and that the school has to deal with it. And it has to be clear, if the school has a racism problem, if it's a problem that the school has, they've got to deal with it. The school has to deal with it, whether it's at the highest level, the level of the school governors or the senior leadership of the school. It's something that they must deal with. Again, this is above your pay grade, as would say. So talk to your parents. Let your parents take up that responsibility. And parents, you now know what to do. It's something that you have to complain and let the school know that this is a problem. And I had to write down what you said, because I mean I felt distressed on your behalf, just asking whether you can get used to it. No, you cannot get used to it. No, you cannot get, and you should not get used to it. All right. And these are some of the comments, parents, that you take note of, that this is what my child said. That means that this has been recurring. Okay. So it's very important that we identify these things and push back. And push back on them and push back vigorously.
Absolutely. So I agree with you, sir. And just like you said, it might impact on you later, because for the fact that you said they were using racist comments. That means you actually knew that they were actually racist comments. If you are not aware of it or you are not so sure, that's another thing. But because you were so clear in saying it that way, then it will impact on you. It's all about your emotion. You might be bottling it up now, but it will impact on you later in life. And remember, they have said it's about your identity. Black, you are black. That's who you are. That is just who you are. You can't change that. And you should be proud of who you are. And nobody, by no means, whether your accent, whether the way you look, or your color, or by anything, should minimize you. They are not allowed to do that. And their equality at 2010 would add 9 protected characteristics that the law protects. If anybody says anything against it, the law can be used against that person. And one of those protected characteristics is race. Race. And which is whether you're black or whatever color you are nobody's allowed to say such things at you. And what you need to do, you don't need to fight them, you don't need to confront them. Speak to a trusted person. Even if your parent cannot do it, you need to talk to your pastoral head in your school, or you talk to somebody in your Sunday school. You come to church. That's why we are there for you. This program we are doing, it comes out of the church program, Winners Chapel International Leagues, Real Boys Smart Girls. And that's why we are there to help you. Now, if you have explained it to your mom, your dad, and they are not getting it, your mom and dad can get help from somebody like Dr. Jacob. Is that okay? They can get help from somebody like myself. We can signpost them to where they can help you adequately to address this matter. Because we have a lot of questions, let's quickly move on, sir. Another, okay, me. Yes, me. You have your hands raised.
Hello, Dcns. Thank you so
Yes,
much
ma'am.
for this session. Thank you, Judah. Thank you, Dr. Jacob. Just wanted to talk about the praises question and just really emphasize the need for us to refuse to get used to racism. Because
Absolutely.
racism stems from being looked down on. And then it moves beyond yourself as an individual to an entire race. And if we all, I know where we're from, we tend to harden our skin to, hot water. It doesn't matter what's coming at us. Let's keep going. But the consequence is that we are a race that will remain subjugated unless we remain angry and speak out against racism. Because the person who's racist, consciously racist, is looking down at you. They don't see you as being equal to them as a human being. It moves from where you are in primary school to secondary school. They continue to see you as being less than them. You go to the university, it doesn't matter if you come out with the first class, you're still less than them. Then you get into the workplace, they're looking for a manager, you will not be considered, you're still less than them. They're talking about people getting into government, into politics, you will not be considered, you're still less than them. And that's because we get used to it. So
absolutely.
For me, nobody, you don't have to be violent about it, but you must speak out. Some need to be educated, some are deliberately racist, but nobody, parents, please, I know we'll feel this way, too much hassle, what's there? If you're from Nigeria, it's very easy to say, we have bigger problems. This one is one of the smallest problems to deal with, ignore them. Please don't ignore them, because if we do, this generation of ignore them will find themselves when they get into workplaces at very low level of management, if they ever get there, because they've continued to ignore what they've seen. They get used to ignoring, and women today are rising and speaking up in workplaces and being paid. At least people are speaking out. Before, women would work the same job as a man and be paid peanuts in comparison to the man that works there. But today, because women were speaking out, today you have women who are now paid at least what they are worth. And in some places, with more people speaking out, an equivalent of what a male counterpart will be paid, because someone is speaking out. So we should never get used to it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Deaconess Chika there. I really appreciate that comment on the we shouldn't accept and we shouldn't get used to being being lashed at with using racist words. Is that okay, everybody? Please, let's be mindful of that, and God will help us as we do that. The next question, just a moment, please, everybody. I'm just trying to okay, I'll do that later. The next question is from, I'm going back into the chat now. Shalom says, if it demeans or makes fun of your culture or attacks you for the way you look, it is racism. But if it is a slight on your person in general or your character, then it's probably just a banter. Is that okay? That is, I think that was an answer towards the person that asked that first question about banter and all that. Hashi says, my son name is Zuri, but his friend in school call him Cyril. He did complain and I told him to inform his friends about the right pronunciation. However, they still hasn't stopped calling him Cyril. What should he do? They're calling him Cyril. It's not a cereal. It's not a breakfast. So Jacob, how do you help that mom?
Listen, Zuriel, you know, your name is special. That's a special name. Again, look, your name is your identity, and these names aren't just labels, you know, that are not just tags. It's your story, it's your identity, it's who you are. So your name is not Cyril. So people calling you Cyril is not right. So again, the parent, your child has tried to deal with this on her own, on his own, and it's not working. That's now your responsibility.
Yeah.
Yes, it's now your responsibility. Again, you're right. You're right to the school. And it's important. I cannot honestly emphasize enough how important it is to write. Don't call, write. At least the first communication should be written. Then you can follow up with a call or an in-person if that's needed. But write to the school exactly the same way you've stated now, that and the model that we shared earlier. Use that model. This is the situation. State what it is, for how long this has been happening, and how does it make the child feel. That's so important. The impact, okay, makes, and again, you have to train the child on the words that he should use to describe how he feels. Because again, these are kids that may not have the vocabulary. You need to give them the vocabulary. I feel humiliated, okay? And these are words that you can teach them to use, and you also use the words those words when communicating with the school, and be very, very clear about how it's making the child feel. And then say that you'd like to meet with the school to address the problem. You know, always offer to meet, always offer to have a conversation, and expect that these are your, and be clear about the expectations, that the school will have a conversation with this kid and that it will be resolved in a good kind of way. And I'm sure the school will then take some action. So you don't have to, your child doesn't have to get used to being called Cyril. That's not his name. He should not be called that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. The next question from Favor. In my school, I don't often use my first name as it is hard to pronounce, but on my school book, I put my full name instead. But since I've reviewed my first, a certain person keeps on teasing my name, thinking it is funny. But what do I do in this kind of uncomfortable situation? Do I tell him to stop or ignore it or move on? What's your take on that, Pastor Dr. Jacob? Yeah.
Again, it's the same answer. I like the way you put it. You said it's uncomfortable, and it is. It's perhaps I'll use a stronger word. So it's your name again is your identity. Yes, it's not everybody that will be able to pronounce it, but let there be an effort. Let them try. I struggle to pronounce certain African names or certain Nigerian names, but at least I give it a try. I mean, you just try. So let that be the effort. If somebody is deliberately mispronouncing your name and you try to correct the person and the person continues that way, you have to let your teacher know. Again, let your parents know. And it's your parents' responsibility. You've tried to correct the person, but the person has not corrected. So now your parent should take the initiative to write to the school. And for parent, if the parent is here, please write to the school, raise this as an issue. This is how it makes your child feel. And it's so important that you express in very clear terms the impact that this is having on your child.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much on that. Let's move quickly to the next few ones that we've got in the chat there. You got, I've been asked this question. Okay, I think the person is answering another question. I've been asked this question, and this was my polite response while smiling. If you are that curious about knowing about Africa, why don't you visit Africa yourself and find out? It makes them avoid asking you those weird questions about Africa, because once you give them an answer, they will ask you another weird one. And that was when the person was trying to answer the question of joy, where you were saying that somebody was asking weird questions. Thank you for that. Let me see if there are any other questions as we begin to wrap up. How do you undo racist comment in the workplace where the racist comment is coming from a client who has a mental health condition? I think I should be able to answer that as someone who is in the health and social care sector. That is not also an excuse, but you should let your line manager know, put it in the make sure it is in the communication book, especially wrote what that person said. And in your one-to-one with your line manager, let your line manager know that this is what this client is saying to you, and you are not happy with it, you are traumatized with it. What they will then do is to either get that mental health patient treated or move you from the care of that person and put somebody there, because the person might not really be doing it for every other person. It might just be you. And me and you who works in care, who have worked in the care before, we know how this thing works. You don't have to tolerate it. Is that okay? They can actually move you out of the shit and put somebody there. You don't have to be working with that person. Somebody can do that job. Another person can do that job. Is that okay? It's as simple as that. I don't want us to move on to bother our speakers on that. If you are long on racism, it will protect you for a short term, but the long-term ripple effect will wear you down. Also, it will impact on your self-esteem. Okay, I could see some comment there for other commentators in the chat, but I just want to say a big thank you to you, sir, to Dr. Jacob, and then to I did say Dr. Judah. All right, that is Master Judah there. Thank you so much. I really appreciate every one of you for coming on this show to this evening. Tijani, want to ask a question quickly as we shut down? Yeah, Tijani, yes. Tijani, yes. Unmute yourself and ask a question quickly.
I wanted to ask if you fixed every person's heart today so that no one was prejudiced anymore, would racism actually disappear, or would the way our schools and neighborhoods and laws are set up keep things the same?
Did the speaker hear what he said? Unmute yourself if you hear what he said and you can respond to it, please. Judah, yes?
I didn't hear everything. Judah, did you hear the question?
No, maybe if he tapped out, we could be able to understand this question, but I don't know.
Quickly, just 30 seconds, please. Speak to that, and the Pastor Jacob will speak to it as well. All right.
So
it seems to me that
question.
Yeah. Tijani, can you just speak clear enough?
Could I repeat the question?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, please.
I said that if he fixed every person's heart today so that no one was prejudiced anymore? Would racism actually disappear, or would the way our schools, neighborhoods, and laws are set up keep things the same?
I didn't
Answer,
hear it.
Judah. Yes, we are not hearing
I
you.
didn't. I didn't hear it. I didn't understand what it said.
I knew I heard something about if racism disappear, will something happen. I didn't get that. I'm so sorry, Tijani. You
I
can
think
put
you
your
can
question
type.
in the chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can put in the chat. I think that's better. Put in the
Yeah.
chat. So
Yes, if you can put it in the chat, that would be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Please put your answers in the chat.
Yeah,
We're ready to
it's
talk.
an important question and we want to address it. So
Yeah,
just type it out.
address it. Right. I want to say a big thank you, but I do have one or two questions that I really want to throw at our speakers before you go. I know it's 8 o'clock. If you want to log out, it's okay. You can log out. If you want to stay back, you can stay back. It's just for 2 hours. But I know some people want to stay here. One or two things. Now, how do I report racism if I'm scared and it makes me make things worse? Yes, also unmute yourself, two speakers, unmute yourself. How do I report racism? That's a teenager talking there. If I'm scared, will it, because it might make things worse.
Judah,
do
you want to address that? Judah, do you want to address
unmute yourself, Judah, please?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're scared, it will make things worse. Don't worry, because if the school is well equipped in handling these issues, they will be able to execute disciplinary action, and it won't have a backlash on you.
Yeah, exactly.
It will be much less obvious if the school, which they are now, but they probably weren't back when. But now, obviously, most schools have been able to receive these kind of trainings, these kind of procedures.
Absolutely.
They've been able to learn about these kind of things. They've been able to prepare these kind of things. So they can make it so as you don't feel you aren't targeted by any of these people further after the action has taken place. And then also you can feel safer about it.
Thank you, Caleb, for that. Judah, sorry for that. Let me just quickly say one or two things. What to add to it, sir? Yeah.
No, very quickly. It's an important question, and I'm sure there are lots of people that feel that way. Look, I don't want to get things worse, but things are bad already with the racism. It's bad already. It can't be worse. And if you don't do anything, or if you keep quiet about it, it's gonna get worse. So the best thing is to deal with it. Okay, it's not gonna get worse, and you're not alone. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Talk to your parents. Now your parents know what to do. So talk to a trusted adult. It's like Esther in the Bible when she said, "If I perish, I perish. I'm going to talk to the king anyway." So say it that way. And again, you don't have to do it alone. Talk to your parents and a trusted adult.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Your fear is real.
I think Pavena put that question in the chat. That's a very important
fine.
question.
We'll address it. I can see it.
So,
Thank you. Thank you. I want to say just quickly to wrap up what the two of you have said in regards to that last question in the slide there. How do I report racism? If I'm scared, will it make things worse? Will it make things worse? Of course, your fear is real. You can report anonymously in many schools. Ask your parents, your trusted teachers to report for you. You don't have to do it as well. If you don't feel safe at school, I've just dropped a line on the chat. There's a chat line that you can call 0800 1111. You can call that number and somebody will pick up your concern and then they will deal with it. You don't have to carry it alone. Is that okay, everybody? Yes, let's go back to Tijani. If we fix every person's heart today so that no one was prejudiced anymore, will racism actually disappear, or will the way our schools, neighborhood, and law are set up keeps things the same? Yes, you can unmute yourself, the two of you. Our speakers, this is a jam question. What are your thoughts? Yeah. Unmute yourself. Oh,
Judah, go
think,
for it.
yeah.
I think that racism wouldn't entirely disappear, even if everybody's like personal attitudes changed overnight. I feel like it would. There's also structural racism. We kind of forget about that as well. That the way that structures are set up, it is almost kind of hard to change how structures are set up because of these structural changes. If certain schools, for example, where people go are underfunded, and those are in bad areas, and those are in areas that are predominantly covered by people of a Black British demographic, then it wouldn't be that racism disappears. It would still be there in the form of structured racism. But maybe personal racism, racism towards other people, would decrease immensely. But then also, even without intentional prejudices, the outcome can still be very unequal in our lives, how we live our lives day to day. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Jacob? You are speaking muted, sir.
All right, thanks. I wish that time will come soon when there'll be no more racism. But unfortunately, we live in a world where there is not enough love, where there is a lot of prejudice, a lot of anxieties that people carry and look for people to blame for those anxieties. So it's not going to end, unfortunately, but we stay hopeful. And we do the part that we can do. Do your part, and hopefully schools and institutions. The more we respond in a coherent, intelligent way, the better, or the sooner that time will come. At least within the schools, within the structures that we're part of, they can make the changes that need to be made. For some institutions, it's just training that they need to do and set up policies so that teachers and everybody that's involved understand what racism is and how not just to be not racist, but how to be anti-racist, to identify racism and then do something about it. But on our own part, I just want to, if you permit me to just say this finally, I know I said it earlier, but I just want to emphasize it again. You're children of God. I mean, you've got God inside of you, and you don't have to feel inferior to anybody, okay, or look down on yourself. You have God inside of you, and the world is waiting for you. There's so much you can do, but that self-confidence is so important that you retain that self-confidence. And for you parents, for us parents, we have a huge responsibility. And it's difficult raising kids, as you know, it's a lot more difficult than raising kids in Nigeria or back in Africa, wherever we came from. But it's such an enormous responsibility. We're not just raising children, we're raising the next generation of leaders for this country, for our society. So you're not just raising kids that will do the kind of work that we are doing, but you're raising leaders that will lead this nation. So when you look at your kid, look at them as future prime ministers, future parliamentarians, future captains of industries. Look at them that way and raise them that way, right? With that self-confidence, with that awareness of who they are, okay? Who they are in God and with who they are in the world. That's very important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, sir. You can't go now, sir. I'm still going to hold you down because I've got one or two more questions to quickly talk. Hopefully, we'll wrap up very soon. There are some very key ones that some people are missing out, which is online and the social media. It was good enough that Judah have spoke on that. But if this is a question I want us to quickly look at, someone is being racist in their comment online to me. Should I reply? Should I report it or ignore it? Yes.
I believe that if it's in the comments of your own video, you shouldn't feel that. Sorry, let me restructure this. You should feel, obviously, maybe a bit offended if you feel that what is said isn't right. Obviously, you believe that someone is being racist, not being aggressive. racist, there are structures in place on websites because of things that have happened in the past. Now that are able to allow you to be able to report these things and to be able to actually get answers, not just report it and never hear back from anybody ever again. To be able to actually usefully report things and people will talk to you from the platform, reach out to you, say, oh, we have banned this person because of their use of racial language. And that can also be the one where you can really respond to these people instead of just replying aimlessly in a comment section. So
thank you. Thank you so much for that. That's brilliant. Dr. Jacob, do you want to add anything to that comment? Or we are good to go on that?
Yeah, if the comment is it depends on a range of things. If it's just one random comment, not directed at you, you don't need to respond. But if it's your post and somebody's responding and being racist towards you, that is you can report that person, you can block that person, you can respond to it or choose to just report that person and block that person. But again, social media is a totally different topic, and that's a topic I think you may probably want to think about addressing. Social media uses and misuses, abuses, uses and misuses. That probably is the way that I'd say it. So for young people. Yeah, for young people, those of you that are under the age of 18, your social media practices, I think it's very important to take a very good look at that and address the way this is used, because at a certain age, I don't expect you to be on social media and be posting things because people, there are crazy people out there who would be, who are just mischievous for the sake of being mischievous. So it's a totally different topic, but it's something that I think it's very, very important to address.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. We've addressed that before, but we can always go back to, we talk about footprints and all of that at that time. I think that was last year, but something that we can go back into later. Well, just to summarize what we said, is it safe for you to reply? Will replying change the person's mind or just drain you? You know, often you may just screenshot it, report it, block the person, mute yourself. You don't hold strangers any energy. You don't owe them any energy. Is that okay? If it is a friend, try and DM them, do a direct message to them. Things like, oh, that's not cool. Why do you have to post that? Then decide based on what their response is to you. Is that okay? The one other one I want to talk about, the last one there, I think I will just have to leave all of this. There are quite a lot of questions. Please, if you don't mind, those of you of us that are on the chat or still on the call, please, you can just help me screenshot the, just kind of use your mentee as well. You can use your phone to get that into that site, the QR code, just screen it, and then help me to tell us what your stake is, what your takeaway is from this event, or you can drop it in the chat. What is your takeaway from this event? I could see some of us dropping it, or any feedback that you have got for us. That we appreciate it. And then is that okay, everyone? I hope that is clear, with whatever you feel your feedback is. And what is next on Real Boy Smart Girls? This is what is next. Not awkward, just aware. Safeguarding for tweenies and teens. So we'll be talking about safeguarding for you teenagers and teens, and also for parents to know how to help your children safeguard themselves and protect themselves. Of course, it's coming up on the 28th of May, on Thursday like this in the evening. Is that okay, everyone? I want to say a big thank you to our two speakers, Dr. Jacob. We want to say a big thank you to you, sir, for coming. Please, my audience, can you just give them a round of applause? And then Master Judah, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much, everyone. Please don't forget to leave me a feedback. Leave me a feedback of how the event went and what you think we can do better, how we can improve it. And thank you so much. We'll see you next month. Enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you, sir.
God
Thank you.
bless you.
Thank you.